Let's talk about analyzing schools. I'm Brian, I'm a realtor in Indianapolis, and I know that when people make a move, sometimes they take into consideration a school district that they either want to be in or a school district that they are potentially going to be moving into, and they want to get more information on that school district. Well, first of all, in the comments below, I'm going to post the link where you can go directly to the Department of Education website for Indiana, and you can check out any school in the entire state that you want to know about. Elementary, middle school, high school, doesn't make any difference. All of the information is there, and then you can kind of analyze that for yourself. What I have done is gone through some of the largest school districts. Now, I'm based in Indianapolis, so I chose school districts that are in and around Indianapolis, and then I spread out a little bit to some of the larger, I'll say maybe more well-known school districts around the state, like up in Fort Wayne and up in Lafayette, down in Evansville, that kind of thing. And there are lots of statistics. There is lots of information that the Indiana Department of Education gives to anybody who wants it. Now, that can be information overload. I get it. And how you judge a school is pretty subjective, okay? You may think that graduation rate is how it should be judged. You may look at I-Learn scores. You may look at percentage of kids who wind up getting a job after they graduate from high school. Whatever metric you want to use, there's a pretty good chance you're going to be able to find that on the Indiana Department of Education website. So I'm not here to necessarily say these are rankings for school districts. This is information that I personally feel most parents would want to know about the schools. Now, I am only analyzing high schools because there are so many elementary schools, and to be honest, elementary schools feed into middle schools feed into high schools, and when it comes down to it, what we care most about as parents should be, is my kid going to go to a good school? Are they going to be able to graduate with something that's useful? And can that carry on to whatever the next step is in their life? So I'm focusing solely on high school information. Now, a little bit of background about myself. I was a teacher for 20 years. I spent 8 years as an elementary school teacher. I spent my final 12 years as a middle school math teacher. And so I don't have experience working at a high school. I don't believe that's necessarily relevant here. I was a math teacher, so I do understand how to analyze statistics. So I worked in Center Grove, and I obviously have background information about that school district. My children went through Perry Township schools in Indianapolis, so I have background about those schools. And I'm not trying to show bias here for school districts or high schools that are better than any others. I'm simply just providing information. Now, in order to get the information on specific school districts, I'm going to create separate videos, which will be here in the playlist. So if you want information about a particular school district and the high schools that are in particular school districts or counties, and that's actually how I'm going to break it down is by county, then all you have to do is go into the playlist and check out that particular county. Now, there are 92 counties in the state of Indiana. I'm not analyzing all 92. If for some reason you don't see the county here that you're interested in finding information on, well, number one, the link to the Department of Education is going to be here in the show notes. Number two, send me a message. I am glad to do a little bit of research for you and give you that information. That's easy enough for me to do. So a little bit of background of how the state of Indiana grades schools. Now, it used to be for a number of years, they had an A to F grading scale, similar to how a student gets graded in the classroom. Now, that A to F grading scale focused on several areas, but not necessarily the student as a whole. So for instance, they graded schools based on test scores, and that was I-STEP, which eventually became I-Learn. All the third graders take I-Read, and so all those scores are put in there. Attendance is another factor that came into that grade, and graduation rate. Those were the three main areas. Now, there could have been others, but there weren't many. And unfortunately, all that focused on was whether or not a kid came to school, how they did on standardized tests, and whether or not they graduated. And everybody knows, parents especially know, that's not the only way to judge or to, analyze again, how successful a student is in school. So the state of Indiana got information from the National Department of Education, and basically we're told you're not doing enough. You're not taking into account more information that really makes for a well-rounded student. So a few years ago, they went to what's called the Graduates Prepared to Succeed, also known as GPS. And in 2023, they started to list the GPS results for students in elementary, middle, and high school. There is lots of information there. And to try and figure out whether a school district or a high school is any good, again, that's subjective. It's based upon what you think is an important statistic. So I, being a former educator and a parent of 2 students who have graduated from high school, I went through and I picked out 4 things that, as a parent, I felt were important metrics for determining whether or not the school was of any good, right? So here are the 4 metrics that I chose. Graduation pathways completion. That is the percent of grade 12 students who complete graduation requirements. Second thing that I used was diploma strength. That is the number of graduates earning a Core 40, academic honors, technical honors, academic and technical honors, or International Baccalaureate diploma from that school. Diploma strength seems to be important because they fulfilled the minimum requirements, which is the Core 40, in order to graduate, and some went above and beyond that. But it's not just about necessarily your core grades. They also took into account the technical honors and International Baccalaureate requirements. I went with employment and enrollment. That's the percent of grade 12 students who are employed or enrolled, meaning they're enrolled in a college or potentially enlisted in the military, within Indiana 1 year after their expected graduation year. And the 4th metric that I used is median income. That is high school graduates who met the definition of employed within the Indiana workforce. In other words, they're working somewhere within the state of Indiana 5 years after their expected graduation date. So this could mean that they have gone on to college and graduated and now they got a job in Indiana. It could mean they started college, didn't work out for them for whatever reason, they get a job somewhere in the state of Indiana. Or they never went to college at all, never went to any type of technical school, anything after high school graduation. They got a job. Here's what they're earning. It's the median income. Now, I will say, in regards to these 4 statistics, some of them are a little harder to track, such as median income, for example. They reach out to students within 5 years after they graduate high school, but not all of them respond. And so when we talk about median income, it's not necessarily ultra accurate, because if a student ends up working in the state of Indiana, the school reaches out to them and they choose not to respond, well, then they don't get that information. And it also doesn't take into account students who finished high school, moved out of the state, and got a job somewhere else. It is only those within the state of Indiana. So that factors in as well. As a parent, I feel it's important to know what percent of students complete graduation requirements. It's important, I feel, diploma strength. Is the student being challenged while they are in school and ultimately completing their high school diploma, having been challenged? Employment and enrollment. What percent of kids actually get a job after they're done with high school there? And maybe even look at it as how many of those students wind up staying within the state of Indiana, because that is a factor in the employment and enrollment part. And then lastly, median income. I mean, our job as parents is ultimately to raise our kids, make them productive members of society, and they move on their own, hopefully, to get a job someday. That's the goal, make them self-sufficient. So I would like to know, based on high school, what type of money I might expect a kid to earn after they have moved on away from high school. So those are my 4 metrics. You can feel free to analyze any metrics that you want, but that's what I went with. So as I said, in further videos, and this will be a series of videos, I'm going to be analyzing by county the high schools from the counties and their 2023 statistics. Obviously, we're approaching the end of 2024 when I'm recording this video, and that will all change before the end of 2024 in the database of information from the Department of Education. But this is the information that the Department of Education currently has to share as a completed school year at the end of 2023. So if you would like more information on a school district that you're interested in, if you would like more information on a school district that I don't have listed here, please reach out to me, leave me a comment. You can send me an email. My email, movemetoindy@gmail.com. I'll also try and link that in the show notes as well. Reach out to me anytime. I absolutely love talking about schools and am willing to answer any questions that you have. And of course, if you need some assistance moving into a particular school district, that's what I'm here for. Ultimately, that's the goal here, is for me to get some jobs, right? So reach out, and I'm absolutely willing to help you out or answer any questions you might have. Thanks for watching.